soon be talking to Kathryn Dalziel, Privacy Lawyer, to do with a story that's received very little prominence, and it relates to a court judgment this week. And it's a court judgment that essentially suggests that every one of those cameras that is designed to catch us speeding, they tend to be mostly in urban areas. You must have a lot in Wellington, I guess, Ben. They'll be in Auckland. Yeah. They are now routinely used by the police about 600 times a day to find information not connected with police offences. And a number of lawyers have increasingly argued that we have become a CCTV state. We have become a surveillance state in very much the same way you might argue that Britain is, or United Kingdom. But in newly released rulings, judges have knocked back several of those legal challenges that had argued that it should be inadmissible to rely on number plate identifying cameras for anything other than identifying number plates, which is why they're there. And police have been given, essentially, it would seem, on the basis of the few media reports I've seen of this, to give the police have been given a legal clearance to continue tapping into private cameras more than 200,000 times a year for evidence of other crimes. There are apparently between 5,000 and 10,000. The fact that nobody really knows how many there are is slightly disturbing. But there are about 5,000, 10,000 cameras around the country that connect to Aura. And Aura is, as I understand, the private company, although our next guest might be best to know, that hosts most of these, what are they called? Automated number plate recognition cameras, ANPR. Joining us to talk about that and the implications for you and I as ordinary citizens is Privacy Lawyer Kathryn Dalziel, and she joins us now. Kathryn, lovely to have you on. Thanks very much for joining us.
Oh, good morning, Michael. Lovely to be talking with you.
Now, listen, this case, I must admit, I've only just caught up with it, but it seems to have quite a significant implications. Would you have been one of those lawyers that was feeling uncomfortable about the way in which the police are using other cameras not designed to essentially spy on New Zealanders?
The short answer is yes, because I think this is an important issue to test for us all as citizens, is when something that appears to be mass surveillance is available to police, and then the risks that it has to our freedoms. You know, a lot of people say to me, well, if you're doing something, you're not doing anything wrong, what's the problem? But also, if you have been accused of a crime you haven't committed, you might have a differing view. So it's an important test of freedom. So I welcome this judgment and appreciate both sides of the argument, because it was important to test.
Said, listen, it's fine. Is that how you read the judgment?
Well, I think that there's some important aspects of the judgment, because this is not the end of the story. One of the ways that the police access the Aura system is that they tap into it and they have to certify that this is necessary for the investigation of an offence. So if the police want to use that material that they source in the prosecution of a crime or an offence, then they will be tested by Defence Counsel on whether that was necessary to obtain at the time. So there is a backstop position on it, but what the court has said, in the meantime, if somebody's out in public and if they're driving a car, then there is no automatic right to privacy in that sort of environment. Looking at the court's arguments, I had some sympathy with that position. We've been heading down that track ever since we had the Hosking decision on privacy, and so I think that this is now where technology has got to a point where we've just got to accept when we're out in public, we are under surveillance, and that is information that the police might access if it is necessary for the prevention, detection or prosecution of an offence.
If the police are accessing it 200,000 times a year, you would suggest that it is an extensive part of the police investigative armoury, yeah?
Yes, but also I would say we have a lot of crime in New Zealand, so that those sorts of figures do not surprise me.
Okay. Now, so those who might argue that we are living in a police state and we're living in a surveillance state and it's the United Kingdom come to roost in the South Pacific, your argument would be, well, tough, that boat has sailed.
Well, I don't accept that we are in a police state or a surveillance state. All they are collecting is number plate details. And so that's not the point where I am constantly under surveillance all the time, me as a person. It is simply my car number plate that is under surveillance. So I don't think we have reached a police state. I don't walk out of my office or go for a walk in the park and find myself under police surveillance during that whole period of time. So I don't think we've reached that state. But I do think that
there are other cameras, though, aren't there, Kathryn? It's not just the sort of speed cameras we're talking about here. We're talking about CCTV cameras set up to combat shoplifting and retail crime and things like that as well, too, aren't they?
Exactly, but the police aren't using that unless there's an offence. So if I walk into my supermarket, I might be caught on surveillance for that, but that's only being used by the police if it's needed to investigate an offence. And look, it might be looking at somebody else committing an offence and I'm walking past, so I might end up that, but that's the extent of it. Same if I walk into any other retail shop or into my service station. So we have got CCTV cameras everywhere, but the police are only accessing it if they need it to investigate an offence. And if they breach that or if they start using it inappropriately, they risk losing a very important crime detection tool, which is an incentive for them to use it properly, I would have thought.
I was surprised, though, that, listen, I've just come to this issue late, obviously you know it, but it's a private company, Aura, that hosts the platform for this, not a public platform.
Yes, and the same with because the people that are using those for a lot. So a lot of those billboards that you see over motorways and things like that have the number plate recognition detention facility within those boards. There are people that put those sorts of cameras up on their own private property. There's no privacy in a right to a car number plate number. So a car number plate. So that's happening and that's there. It's the police access into that. And again, as I say, it's got to be necessary for the prevention or detection and prosecution of offences. So look, I hear you on the point that you're making because this is where technology has got to us. And that's why I think it's important that we have a case like this to test it. The district court has come back and indicated some views on that. Whether that's appealed will be interesting to see. But the other thing is that this will constantly be tested by Defence Counsel as part of the way they respond to criminal prosecutions.